Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday from me and my buddy, my Miss Libby, who has agreed to help us with the stream today for moral support because it's a heavy subject. And sometimes you just need your puppy. You know what I'm saying? Are you looking at yourself on the screen? You're confused why there's a dog up there? That is your cute face. Congratulations. She'll be hanging out with us. Hopefully, she usually leaves after a few minutes for the kickoff of the stream today. But we are live on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, on Getter, and of course to our locals fam. I hope everybody is hanging in there and having a great day. We had a long stream yesterday that was really difficult to talk about with the Sound of Freedom movie and why everyone is trying so intently to cover it up, my experience seeing the movie, and so much more. Lots of you guys have already seen Sound of Freedom and have reported very, very powerful experiences going to see the film yourself. If you were able to go see it, a lot of you had mysterious AC problems or the bulb and the projector going out or any other issue happening at the movie theater and had to get your tickets refunded, which seems a little coincidental. A little sus is all I'm saying. But we are so proud of what this film is accomplishing and the conversation that it is starting across the world about the dangers and the impact and the widespread nature of human trafficking, particularly as it pertains to child sex trafficking, which is obviously just one area of human trafficking, but a very sadly rapidly growing industry across the world. I expected after yesterday's pretty heavy stream that we would have the luxury of talking about a more lighthearted subject today, but absolutely feel compelled to have to continue the conversation from yesterday because of something that I learned this morning. So today is also going to be a pretty heavy stream. Heads up, just a warning in case you don't want to talk about that again today. Feel free to skip the stream today, but I think it is hugely important that we are aware of what is going on, that we unpack and identify what is going on, and have the courage to stand up against it and educate ourselves to fight back appropriately and fight back for people who don't have the opportunity to fight for themselves. So we are talking about human trafficking again today, more specifically as it pertains to the United States of America and some really serious issues that are happening inside of our United States government that are now coming to light today in the news cycle from the last 24 hours. But we'll also have a little bit of fun. I have a few fun videos to show you at the end of the stream, and we'll have some fun in our post-game Q&A that you are all invited to over on Locals at the end of the stream as well. In case you guys missed it on Locals this morning, it was supposed to be last night, but our video didn't process in time. We posted our episode of Outdated where I unpacked all of my thoughts about the whole Jonah Hill, Sarah, what's her last name? Brady situation, Sarah Brady situation. I don't know if you guys are following the news quite closely about all of that, but the internet has erupted in their own opinions on whether or not drawing boundaries in a relationship and saying what is or is not something that makes you comfortable in a relationship is emotional abuse. I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about when it comes to Jonah Hill and Sarah Brady's now failed relationship from like a year and a half ago. He has a baby with another woman at this point. Like, he's very much moved on, but she posted screenshots of their relationship all over her Instagram story this week. And so the entire internet is erupting in calling Jonah Hill a misogynist, that he's emotionally abusive, that he's weaponizing therapy language, apparently, by saying he needs to draw boundaries in their relationship. So I thought it would be fun to comment on, and that was our episode of Outdated this week, which exists only over on Locals. If you guys are new here, you might not know that we have two series that only exist on Locals: Outdated, about dating and relationship culture, being one, and Domus, about faith in the church and the big questions in life, being the other, which we have a new episode of tomorrow. So I just dropped the link in case you want to check out my thoughts on everything Jonah Hill and Sarah Brady related. You can follow that link that I just dropped in our chat to our Locals community. Locals gang, what did you think of it? Alex says, I'm not a fan of Hollywood drama. Neither am I, but I'm glad you still watched this episode because I think it speaks a lot more largely to those little pervasive lies that don't seem very important about dating culture at the time when you're just looking at like one celebrity gossip situation, but actually change the nature of how we date people as a whole society at large by saying that drawing boundaries in a relationship is somehow misogynistic or emotionally abusive or whatever. Crazy Cat Lady loved it. All the Locals gang already watched it. So if you guys want to check it out and you're watching on a different platform, feel free to go back and watch that whenever works best for you. I'm sorry, are you not comfortable sitting on my lap? Are you trying to leave me? There is no rejection that breaks your heart quite like a dog that won't sit there and let you pet them. Like, it hurts your soul. It is like a dagger going into your heart is all I'm saying. So you better just sit down. You're okay. Just pop a squat. There you go. Nice. Now you just hang out for a little while, okay? We have a lot to talk about today, but first I want to say hi to everybody across our platforms, especially if you're new around here, because we continue to just explode in following over on Instagram and TikTok. If you joined us from over there, let us know who you are, where you're watching from, and that you're a first-time viewer. We try everything we can on our little corner of the internet to build as much of an authentic community as possible. So feel free to use the chat throughout the stream. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that I'm saying. Share your thoughts with everything that we're talking about. And of course, get to know one another as much as you can. We've got Marnus watching on YouTube. Dutch Canadian is here from Holland. Frostfang is watching. We've got Evan here, the real one. We love Evan. Brown Rice is watching. We've got Anthony watching from Massachusetts. Hi, Anthony. So great to see you. Mighty is here. Uber is here. We've got John Ware watching. You like the intro music. We love to see it. I've been thinking about switching it up a little bit with our intro and outro music, so you'll have to let me know what you guys think. The Bear is watching on Switzerland. Brenda says it's her first time meeting you, Libby. Can you say hello, or are you just annoyed with me? Look at that eye roll. That's ridiculous. The sass, you gotta rein it back in, woman. You gotta rein it back in. We've got Orthodox Russ watching and many others over on YouTube on Getter. Gary is watching and is excited to hang out with us Gen Zers. We love to hear that, Gary. Magic Def is here. York is watching. Nitty Witty, the OG, is here. Charles is watching on Rumble. Heath is watching on Rumble. Glock Fanboy is watching on Rumble. And of course, over on Locals, the whole gang. Brian, Daniel Maynard, Crazy Cat Lady, Alex is here. African Warlord is watching. We've got Tito watching. And they're all happy to see you, Miss Libby, because let's be honest, it's Libby's world and we're all just living in it, right? Yeah. You know the answer to that. You absolutely know the answer to that. Thank you guys all so much for being here. And as we get started and talk about everything we want to talk about today, do me a huge favor. And if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching on. It will always be free to watch this live stream. But as an independent creator, it really makes such a huge difference in my life every single time you guys hit that follow or subscribe button. And if you have the capacity to repost, I know you guys do on Getter and on Facebook, to share it with the people in your community, please consider doing so. It makes such a humongous difference. Okay, so as I mentioned, I was really looking forward to moving on to a more lighthearted subject after an incredibly difficult to talk about stream with the context of the movie Sound of Freedom and bringing awareness to child sex trafficking that's happening all over the world. Yesterday, you guys know I cried during the stream yesterday. I think a lot of you probably teared up during the stream yesterday. It was a really difficult thing to talk about. Unfortunately, the world that we live in does not give us the luxury of moving on to something more lighthearted on the stream today, because to my absolute shock and amazement, I discovered something unbelievably atrocious this morning as I was scrolling through social media. You guys know how much we love the man, the myth, the legend himself, Dave Rubin, and that my fiance works for Dave Rubin. And so I was scrolling through Dave's posts this morning, as I normally do, because Brock contributes to a lot of these posts. And I saw that Dave's account had posted a screenshot of a tweet that just stopped me in my tracks. So normally I just do my thing. I scroll through, check out the Florida man stuff. But I came across this post this morning with the caption, "Nothing to see here," from Dave. And it was a screenshot of a tweet that says, "Breaking, Biden's Department of Justice has removed child sex trafficking from its list of areas of concern." And I was like, I'm sorry, what? So I kept scrolling, and this is a screenshot of an article in which there's alleging that Biden's Department of Justice removed parts of their website related to international sex trafficking of minors. And of course, we also know that there was a huge bill in California that's making insane news this week. Yesterday, the California state legislature voted on this bill. We're going to come back to that at the second half of the stream after we talk about the Department of Justice. But across the board, the United States government seems to be, awfully coincidentally, if you ask me, trying to cover up certain aspects of international human trafficking, or more specifically, child sex trafficking. And I thought this news coming to light was incredibly coincidental this week, with The Sound of Freedom making absolute waves in the entertainment world and kind of putting Hollywood on notice, with social media erupting over their experience watching Sound of Freedom. And I just found it all a little bit too close to home and a little bit too coincidental. So I had to start asking these questions for myself. I looked everywhere on the internet for more corroboration of this story beyond that one article, and had a really hard time finding much until I struck liquid gold on the archives section of the Department of Justice website. So we're going to actually prove here on the stream, fact check ourselves before the infamous fact checkers come for us and try to ruin our lives, and probably take this video down at some point. But you know what? It's worth it. I don't even care. We're going to fact check for ourselves what all of this is going to mean, because it's just insane, and you wouldn't believe it unless I proved it to you. So I'm going to prove it to you today. Jake, thank you so much for donating in our super chat. You say, hi, hope you're doing well. I am doing great. I'm a little sad, frankly, about our United States government, as I always am, but you know what? We're not going to let it get us down too much, because we have way too much to fight for and way too much goodness and truth to spread in the world. So I see this post on social media and I'm like, I have to go corroborate this. I'm ready to do the research. And if you Google this, if you Google Department of Justice child sex trafficking website, nothing comes up. Like literally nothing. So I went to Twitter, to the original post that Dave had screenshotted, and started going down a little bit of a rabbit hole myself to try to prove that this was in fact an actual reality. And the best place that I found that started to corroborate some of this with actual concrete evidence actually came from a journalist named Natalie Winters. And if you're not already familiar with her, she actually works for War Room with Steve Bannon. And so she's one of their reporters and does some pretty independent investigative journalism on her own time, not working for a major news corporation or a major umbrella media company, but does a fantastic job trying to get to the bottom of this stuff and looking for primary sources. So this is from the War Room website. This is written by Natalie Winters, one of their journalists over there with Bannon's War Room, and she did all of this investigative journalism herself a few days ago on July 10th to find out that, yes, in fact, this current Department of Justice website has totally changed the face of their page when it comes to international child sex trafficking to remove a substantial amount of information from the webpage. We won't bother reading too much of her breakdown of all of it, but in case you are curious, you can find all of this on War Room for yourself. And specifically what we're talking about here is the Department of Justice website, and more specifically, a subsection of the website related to child sex trafficking. And the webpage is specifically under the criminal division of the Department of Justice. And on the side of the criminal division website, which you're about to see in a second, there's like bullet point about all of the things that the Department of Justice focuses on prosecuting, different subject areas that the department's child exploitation and obscenity services focuses on. So all of the different crimes that they specifically try to prosecute criminals for committing, and what areas of concern the Department of Justice normally spends a lot of focus, a lot of resources, and a lot of time and energy on. Interestingly, this was updated to include more information by the Trump administration in May of 2020. But in May of 2023, the Biden Department of Justice decided to basically scrub the entire thing. And again, if you want to go read all this for yourself and read more of her breakdown, please feel free to do so. We don't have all the time in the world on the stream, so check it out for yourself with War Room. But she takes some screenshots, Natalie does, of the different web pages. And again, don't trust everything you ever see on the internet. So I actually went in and double checked all of these things for myself. But this first screenshot, in totality, this whole picture is what the revised, scrubbed, smaller version Department of Justice website is. Okay, it looks pretty all-encompassing. It says a lot. It definitely exists, that there is a page acknowledging that child sex trafficking is in fact happening. But it's interesting when you keep scrolling down, because then she provides screenshots of the Trump administration's Department of Justice, exact same webpage. If you look at all of the bullet points on the side, exact same subject area for the criminal division of the Department of Justice, specifically focusing on the child exploitation and obscenity section. Okay, you can find all of this stuff for yourself, which we're about to unpack even more. There's much longer text on the first part of the page Okay, that's Biden. This is Trump. So there's clearly more in the Trump administration's page. And then it actually needed a second screenshot of 3 key areas that were totally scrubbed from the Biden page entirely, according to the screenshots at least, right? So if we scroll all the way down here and look at the second screenshot that's on the same web page in the Trump website, it says international sex trafficking of minors, as an entire subsection, throw in my phone because I'm so passionate. International sex trafficking of minors as an entire subsection, domestic sex trafficking of minors as an entire subsection, and child victims of prostitution as an entire subsection, meaning under the umbrella of child sex trafficking for the Trump Department of Justice, they also had 3 key subsections that they were devoting time, energy, and resources to prosecuting at the DOJ. And those 3 things were 1, international sex trafficking of minors, 2, domestic sex trafficking of minors, and 3, child victims of prostitution that are not included in this screenshot of the Biden webpage. Are you guys following me so far? So essentially, according to these screenshots, the Department of Justice is not as interested in prosecuting to the fullest extent possible crimes related to the sexual exploitation of children. I was floored when I saw all of this, but knew I even had to go one step further and prove it to myself even more, right? Because you can't even just trust a screenshot. You have to go to the primary source itself. A screenshot could be totally manipulated. Tito, thank you so much for your donation in our locals super chat. Appreciate you so much. So, being the former government employee that I am, I know that the best place that I have to go look is the current Department of Justice website. And then I can go to any archived website from any previous administration ever if I just go through the National Archives. So I decided to go to the archived webpage that allegedly included all of that extra stuff, all of those 3 subsections that are not currently included when it was under the Trump administration. I had to prove it to myself. So I decided to go to the current Department of Justice website. Okay. This is the current Department of Justice website. You can see justice.gov. Okay. Anybody can look this up. If you just look up Department of Justice, child sex trafficking, this will be the first result that comes up on Google. And just like the screenshot provided by Natalie with Steve Bannon's War Room showed us, it's a very short web page. That's it. Was this page helpful? No, it was not helpful. Thank you very much. This is it. An official website of the United States government. Up at the top, you can see child sex trafficking, and they explain what it is, why it's a problem, that it often goes unrecognized, and we want to help people and fight back against it, but that's pretty much it, okay? Then at the bottom, there's this interesting little date, updated May 12th of 2023. So on May 11th, 2023, this website looked different. There was something different in terms of the content on this particular web page on justice.gov/criminal-CEOs/child-sex-trafficking. Okay? Something looked different. At least on May 11th, 2023, but certainly before the Biden administration as a whole as well. So I decided, let's go one step further. If in fact it looked different under a previous administration or even earlier in this particular administration, we need to go back through the archives to figure out what changed. If it follows those screenshots that Natalie provided to us, or there's even more that's just going to blow your mind, okay? Finding the Trump administration's version isn't all that difficult. In fact, that article from War Room actually links directly to this archived website. It looks almost exactly the same at first blush, right? You can tell we're looking at the criminal division, and more specifically, the child exploitation and obscenity section of the Department of Justice, of our federal legal prosecutory agencies that are prosecuting criminals for these federal crimes. You can see on the side here with the subject areas that we're looking at all of the same things, right? Child pornography, child sex trafficking, child sex abuse, support enforcement, blah, 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 sex offender registration, the whole 9, which looks exactly the same as all of these things in the Biden website. But if you start scrolling down on the same child sex trafficking page, the one that looks a lot alike to this one that currently is published, it's a whole lot longer. A whole lot longer. Not only does it not stop after this section, right? But those 3 sections of subheadings that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, was specifically working to prosecute under the Trump administration, in those screenshots from Natalie, they are there. The international sex trafficking of minors, the domestic sex trafficking of minors, and of course, child victims of prostitution. None of which, as subheadings, are present on the current Department of Justice website. At least not since May 12th of 2023. Disgusting. Then I learned they even went a little step further. So if you go to this first paragraph in the Biden DOJ website, I want you to read this with me. Child sex trafficking refers to the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a minor for the purpose of a commercial sex act. Offenders of this crime, who are commonly referred to as traffickers or pimps, target vulnerable children and gain control over them using a variety of manipulative methods. Victims frequently fall prey to traffickers who lure them in with an offer of food, clothes, attention, friendship, love, and a seemingly safe place to sleep. Remember that, safe place to sleep. No child is immune to becoming a victim of child sex trafficking, regardless of the child's race, age, socioeconomic status, or location, and every child involved in this form of commercial sexual exploitation is a victim. This is currently what our government is telling you. On May 11th, 2023, and certainly under the Trump administration, there was an entire section of this paragraph that's not present today on our government's websites. After safe place to sleep, which is still present today, there was an entire series of sentences talking about how a perpetrator, a criminal, a trafficker who is exploiting a child often removes them from where they are comfortable, from their hometown, from their language, from their family, from what is recognizable to them, to a different place that's unrecognizable to them so that they can exploit them further, so that they're more dependent on their trafficker. Kind of like explaining how all of this is happening every single second of every single day at the United States southern border that this current presidential administration does not want you to be aware of, doesn't want you to think about, doesn't want you to know is happening. So interestingly, what was removed from this current DOJ website is this. After cultivating a relationship with the child and engendering a false sense of trust, the trafficker will begin engaging the child in prostitution and use physical, emotional, and psychological abuse to keep the child trapped in a life of prostitution. It is common for traffickers to isolate victims by moving them far away from friends and family, altering their physical appearances, or continuously moving them to new locations. Victims are heavily conditioned to remain loyal to the trafficker and to distrust law enforcement. That is not present in this first paragraph of the same webpage of a different presidential administration. And it at the very least, makes me wonder why. Why would you take that sentence out? Why would you take those 3 paragraphs away? Why quietly alter your website without giving anyone any reason for why you are doing that? I think there's a few answers. Number 1, prostitution is no longer viewed as a negative thing or tied to a human trafficking industry one bit in modern America. We don't even call it prostitution anymore. We call it sex work. And every single feminist magazine, social media account, politician, celebrity, person with a podcast, etc., is saying to us that sex work is empowering, that it's positive, that it's liberating for women, and you couldn't possibly have a positive, liberating, empowering aspect of women's society that is inherently tied to criminal behavior, that is inherently tied to the human trafficking industry, and that is inherently non-consensual, right? So if they admit that prostitution is directly linked, both child prostitution and adult prostitution, to the human trafficking industry, they have to admit that sex work is not actually good, that it's really bad, and creates a demand for child sex, for human trafficking, for non-consensual rape, essentially. That's answer number 1. Answer number 2, I think they genuinely don't want you to be aware that any international aspect of human trafficking is impacting the United States of America, right? They certainly don't want to admit domestic human trafficking happening, because that looks like it's happening under their nose and they're not prosecuting it. And I think we can all play the tinfoil hat game there. But why remove this section, international sex trafficking of minors? It's because it's happening across our southern border every single day. All of these stories that you hear on the news and on your social media and the crazy posts that elicit all of the outrage about the kids in cages and the unaccompanied minors who just need to get across the border. Please, please, please hurry. Let these kids get in. What they don't want to tell you is more often than not, that is happening through illegal immigration. It's facilitated through illegal immigration because somebody who has abducted that child, who is not their parent, not their legal guardian, not a family member that they trust, but their trafficker, their abuser, is bringing that child across the southern border to sell them to someone here in the United States. And it happens every single day. In fact, there's an alarming trend that's happening at our southern border right now where in a child's pocket of their clothing, their trafficker will put like the name of their sponsor family that has agreed to take in this unaccompanied minor into their home out of the goodness of their heart. In reality, that person is actually the buyer of that child and their new abuser here in America. And shockingly, the United States government will drive that child to that person's house and drop them off. Like, we are facilitating with our own taxpayer dollars, with our own resources, with our own vehicles, with our own law enforcement agencies, child sex trafficking. Period. Full stop. And maybe it's because the Department of Justice just doesn't want to admit that it's happening. Maybe it's a much darker reason. And I think we can all play the tinfoil hat game forever and ever and ever, wondering why they would quietly scrub their website of any mention of any of this stuff, why they would make it seem like this is less of a priority for our government to go after and to prosecute and to lock up these horrible people that are doing all of the wrong things to children from all over the world. We can play the guessing game all day long. But at the very least, I think the American people deserve an answer to why the website was altered. Why did you take all of that information down? Is it less of a priority to you? Because I'd sure as hell like to know if that's the case. Is it not a priority to you? Because I definitely would like to know if that's not the case anymore. And certainly, if you are complicit in covering any of this up, or you're somehow involved in facilitating this criminal behavior, we absolutely deserve an answer right freaking now. And that's the baseline, right? It could be infinitely worse than that. And we can play that game all day long. But at the very least, don't the American people and foreign citizens who rely on the United States of America to set the standard for culture of what is considered humane or not, for Western culture at the very least, don't we deserve an answer for why we're going in this direction? Most people are thinking that this is all happening in the same week that Sound of Freedom has been released in theaters and all of the crazy stuff is being said in the media about that movie being a QAnon right-wing conspiracy theory. Again, it's not. This happened in May, okay? But people are just now starting to take notice of it, probably because we are more aware thanks to this incredible film that is making us understand what is really going on behind the scenes. But it's definitely related. There is certainly a lot to be said about the coincidental timing in the same few weeks as all of this happening. And it doesn't just stop at the Department of Justice. This is going down to the state legislatures. This is going into our entertainment industry, our social media feeds, and everywhere else. And as I said yesterday at length, this is, in fact, happening in your own backyard. And typically, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me a radical extremist, I guess. But typically, if something is not passing the smell test with people in positions of power refusing to expose or go after or adequately punish criminals, there's probably something more happening behind the scenes. There's probably more to the story that isn't really coming to the light yet, and there's probably some involvement there that they don't want to admit is happening. Or someone with power, someone with influence, someone with a particular situation in society that can influence and impact everybody else around them is involved that they don't want to expose. And I just want you to think about that, okay? Because what we're seeing with our federal government refusing to go after this, refusing to acknowledge that it's happening, and refusing to say on their own website is a priority for them to prosecute, that does not pass the smell test. And if our own government is refusing to acknowledge the extent of how horrifying this is for millions of children all over the world, there's probably a little bit more to the story. And that's all I'm going to say, because if I go too far into the expose here, we'll probably get deplatformed pretty quickly, especially on YouTube. But I think you all can put the pieces together. You're smart people. You understand exactly what I'm saying. Maze Page, thank you so much for your donation. Appreciate you so very much in our super chat. This just isn't right to me. None of this is sitting right with me. And this is all happening at the exact same time that the California state legislature has been examining opportunities to more fully prosecute child sex trafficking. So a lot of this isn't just about the victims, right? I think yesterday we focused so much on the victims. We focused on how we can save these kids, how we can expose what is happening. But part of that is criminalizing this behavior and punishing it appropriately enough so that you lessen the demand and you lessen the supply on both sides of the equation here for child sex, especially in the United States of America, where we are one of the number one consumers and have one of the highest demands of any country around the world for child sex and child pornography. So like any logical conclusion for how to stop crime, you would think that our government agencies would want to punish the criminals who participate in this behavior to deter other potential criminals later on down in life. But just like every upside down thing in the state of California, where they'll put you in prison for keeping your business open during COVID, but let a child rapist out of prison because they're reformed now, the California state legislature has decided to block a bill, prevent it from moving forward, that would have sent traffickers of children to prison for life. The California state legislature has told us, nah, we want child traffickers out and about in regular society, having access to kids and having the freedom to do whatever they want because we don't want to send them to prison for life. Interesting. Sadly, human trafficking victims that testified for this bill and testified on the floor of the California legislature about their experience being trafficked and what that was like and how that will forever alter the trajectory of their life, they sat there sobbing their eyes out, bawling their eyes out on the floor of the California state legislature while lawmakers, heartless assholes, decided to block this bill from moving forward. This is from Fox News, published yesterday, that the California Assembly on Public Safety blocked a bill that would increase charges for human trafficking. The lower house committee for California considered Senate Bill 14, which would have made human trafficking of children a serious felony this week. Serious felony charges under California law currently include murder, rape, and any other crime which may incur the death penalty or a life sentence in state prison. So just to make this abundantly clear to you, murdering someone and raping someone is enough to land you life in prison in California, but selling a child to be murdered or be raped is not enough to land you life in prison. There's a little loophole for you. Instead of upping the ante on child traffickers, the California Assembly Public Safety Committee, because you're so interested in public safety, nuked the measure on Tuesday. Horrible, someone yelled as victims sobbed while they made this bill no longer available to move forward. The bill had previously cleared the Senate with bipartisan support, and then this committee blocked the bill. Absolutely disgusting. And then you can see some senators who actually do have a heart hugging others about all of it. Like, it's awful. You know you're on the wrong side of an issue when you deliver a win for human traffickers. Democrats on the Public Safety Committee proved that they have no intention of protecting the lives of Californians, let alone protecting innocent children from the horrors of human trafficking, said the California GOP chairwoman. What we saw today from California Democrats was heartless and disgusting. Once again, Democrats are looking out for the most vicious criminals at the expense of victims. Any normal person would tell you that human trafficking of a minor is a serious crime, but Democrats would rather enable these monsters than hold them accountable. According to the local news, This is shocking. No Democrats, not one on the committee, voted to move the bill forward. Both Republican assemblymen voted yes on the bill. The GOP vice chair of the committee stepped out of the committee room to tend to other business, but returned to vote on the measure. Senate Bill 14 was given reconsideration, meaning it could be taken up again by the California Assembly next year. So that's nice. But what about the 365,000 kids in America, some of whom are in California, that are going to go missing and become victims of human trafficking this year? Anybody? I'm so disgusted at how absolutely depraved and out loud this has all become, right? This trajectory that we are engaging in American politics and American society, and make no mistake about it, this isn't really about politics. This is not about whether or you're a Republican or a Democrat or a conservative or a liberal, who you voted for, what president you like, none of it. The trajectory that we're going through in American humanity and culture, in making it less bad, at the very least, at the most, good, to traffic a child, to sell an innocent toddler or little girl or teenage boy into rape 5 to 10 times a day for as many years as they possibly can be exploited. How are we still saying we live in a free country? How are we still saying we live in the land of the free and the home of the brave when everybody in a position of power to act on this is so freaking cowardly that they can't stand up and fight for exploited kids? How are we still saying that we live in the greatest country in the world when our own Department of Justice refuses to acknowledge the full extent to which American citizens and exploited children from other countries alike are being sold into sex slavery? How are we still saying that we are progressive as a country when our version of progress is just about as regressive as you possibly could imagine? Making it okay to sell kids. That we're not going to prosecute you for that. You're not going to land life in prison. And, oh, by the way, a small number of people actually want to include you in the freaking pride flag because minor attracted people are just as valid as any other letter in LGBTQIA+. I am so revoltingly disgusted that this isn't just a crazy headline we're going to read in response to a movie anymore, right? We saw all of that yesterday with the Guardian headline and the Rolling Stone headline and the segment on CNN telling you don't go see this movie that's based on a true story. We're actually taking this one step further in America, and we are empowering this type of criminal behavior. We are looking at a trafficker right in the eyes and saying, go for it. We're not going to get you in trouble. We're not going to put you in prison. We're not going to stop what you're doing. In fact, we'll actually facilitate it. We'll take that kid to their buyer for you across the southern border. And we'll even include you in our Pride Month celebrations so that we can sell you tacky merch at Target. Because you're just as valid as anybody else. What are we doing? I mean, how can we even begin to have conversations about how to establish raising incomes in America, or how to make college more affordable? How can we begin to have conversations about saving the environment? How can we begin to have conversations about religious freedom and freedom of speech on the internet and making it easier for people to start businesses and making it easier to travel and protecting your civil liberties if we literally are complicit, intentionally or not, but complicit as a country in enabling the sale of innocent kids into sex slavery? What are we doing? And this isn't just happening in America. It's happening all over the world. We know that. I mean, the United Nations, for one, is trying to convince you that the child age of consent should be lowered because kids should be able to consent to sex just as much as an adult can, which is disgusting, and they too are complicit in all of this. But I think people, at least in America, who buy into American exceptionalism, which I do. I am proud to be part of the United States of America. I am proud to call this my home. I genuinely do believe that this has been the greatest country in the history of the world. But I think people who buy into that are so blind to like how bad we've let things become because we blindly assume that everything still is the greatest country in the history of the world, in America. That our culture still is exceptional. That we are still the forefront fighter for human rights, for equality, for progress. When in reality, we might be the greatest single enabler on the face of the planet for the most disgusting, fastest growing criminal enterprise on the face of planet Earth, and that is selling people, selling kids. It's getting really difficult for me to say, as a very proud American, as a pro-freedom, conservative Christian, red-blooded, USA-loving American girl, it's getting really difficult for me to say that America is the greatest country in the world. And that's not condemning our country. That's not saying that our Constitution is evil and needs to be rewritten. That's not saying that I'm disavowing the incredible progress that the United States has made for humanity for several hundred years. But at what point are people who love America going to be strong enough to look in the mirror and say, this is not the country that I'm proud of? This is not the culture that I want to pass on to my kids. This is not where I want to call home if we're enabling this type of behavior. Or even, bare minimum, turning our face away from it, drawing a blind eye to it. At what point are we going to say, I'm very proud of who we used to be, I'm not proud of who we are today, but I want to be proud of who we can become in the future? At what point are we actually going to let progress be progress instead of regressive culture? When are we going to stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves? I say this about so many different aspects of culture, right? I say this about abortion. I say this about preborn children. I say this about people who are being attacked for their religious beliefs. But if we can't at the very least, all come together on the same page and agree that child sex trafficking is bad, what the hell are we doing, America? If you still live in California, I've long been a big believer that any state is worth reforming and we need good fighters everywhere. But if you still are a parent in California, what the hell are you doing? Leave. They want to transition your child's gender in school behind your back. Planned Parenthood is giving them their sex ed to give them free abortions without your consent when they show up, or free testosterone without a diagnosis of child gender dysphoria. They've already told you religious freedom is not a value. They're going to take your private property and your business away the next time there's a pandemic, which there will be another one. Tax rates are so horribly expensive that you just can't afford to live there, let alone buy a house someday. Good luck with that. You ever looked on Zillow in Los Angeles? It's the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my life. But now, if your child gets trafficked in your home state, the perpetrator does not deserve life in prison? Are you freaking kidding me? Leave. Please, it's time to go. Anywhere else. Literally anywhere. And now that this is happening at our federal level of government with the Department of Justice, this is impacting all of us. No mainstream media, not one. Fox News, Newsmax, One America News, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, none of them have reported on this story from the DOJ. Not one. And this happened on May 12th. It took an independent journalist who's pretty much been banned from every other social media platform to uncover it herself, just to look it up. It took me 3 seconds to corroborate all of that evidence, to find out for myself. If we can't stand up about child sex trafficking Make no mistake about it, our Department of Justice is about to get a whole hell of a lot worse. We live in a country that I am not proud to call home right now. I'm not. I'm not proud of how we handle abortion. I'm not proud of how we handle child sex trafficking. I'm not proud that we are putting down farmers and ranchers and instead going to force feed people lab-grown meat that theoretically could limit your body's ability to suppress tumors. I'm not proud of our education system that's trying to talk to kids about sex in kindergarten or change your gender behind your parents' back and convince you that your parents are the enemy and even take custody away from your parents. I'm not proud of this country that's attacking Catholics for going to Mass with the same Department of Justice that refuses to prosecute traffickers. I'm not. I'm not proud of our country that's decriminalizing meth and cocaine in places like Oregon and even the White House at this point. Let's just be totally honest. I'm not proud. And that doesn't make me a fake conservative. That doesn't make me a fake American or a rhino or somebody who threw in the towel. That makes me motivated to fight like hell. Because if America falls on this issue or any other issue, but especially child sex trafficking, what do you think the rest of the world is going to do? My fiance and I were planning for our honeymoon last night, and we were looking up fun historical things. We're also going to Scotland next year for a golf trip for him and his dad, which I'm really excited about. I've never been to Scotland. I've been to England several times, but not Scotland. And we were looking up stuff about the Roman Empire and all of that fun stuff, which is very fun. I'm a big history buff. And as we were researching the Roman Empire, I just, for kicks and giggles, decided to look at the height of the Roman Empire, with like Rome being the entire world, essentially. How many square miles was the Roman Empire? And it's about 1.9 million square miles. At the height of the Roman Empire, that was the territory controlled by Rome, which is pretty remarkable for the time, right? Today, the United States of America has 3.5 million square miles, okay? We are easily the Roman Empire of today, of 2023. And the same thing can be said about our military. The same thing can be said about how we set the culture for the rest of the world. The same thing can be said about what we decide to be criminal behavior versus not. What we do here in fashion, in entertainment, in politics, in law, everything about our culture disseminates through the rest of the world. America is the new Roman Empire. And we know Rome fell at one point. No empire has ever survived the entire history of the world. Because they make bad decisions, because people in positions of power manipulate the system to enable bad behavior. Because at some point, people's pride gets in the way of being a good person, of protecting freedom, of protecting the sanctity of life, of protecting the innocence of children. America struggles from the same pride problem that Rome did. Believing that you are the ultimate superiority of the entire world and you can never fall. And our pride is coming from a million different directions, literally with Pride Month, but also, sadly, I think from the conservative movement, from Conservative Inc., and people who genuinely want you to say to your dying breath, I'm proud of America, I'm proud of America, I'm proud of America, I'm proud of America. I am not proud of America. I'm not. I want to be. I'm proud of who we used to be. I want to be proud of where we're going. But today, in this particular instance, I sure as hell am not proud. And that's probably why only 16% of my generation is proud to call themselves an American. And instead of looking at that and acknowledging, I wonder what's broken in our society that's making the next generation feel this way, everybody in positions of power is like, Gen Z is ruining America. Gen Z is going to destroy our country because they're not proud to live here. I wonder why we're not proud. Listen, before you jump to a conclusion that we're going to destroy this country is being destroyed right before our very eyes, and that's what we're not proud of. That's what we don't want to call home anymore. That's where we want to run in the other direction. That doesn't mean we hate America. That doesn't make us fake patriots or rhinos or crybabies or entitled or any of the above. That makes us longing for something to have hope in again, for something to believe in, for something to fight for. And if our country can't come together to fight child sex trafficking, What can we rely on our country to fight for? Anything? Every day, I feel like the world gets a little crazier and a little crazier and a little crazier, and then something like blows up in your face every few months. This blow up in my face thing, exposing the human trafficking complicity that is existing right now in the United States government, honestly might be the last straw for me. Like, I will continue to fight for America. I will continue to fight for a future in this country that I can pass on to my kids with pride. Good pride, not the bad kind. That I can feel good about calling home again. And I know that everybody in my generation is committed to doing the same thing. You might not like what they're fighting for on an individual point-by-point basis, but genuinely, Gen Z, 75% of us do believe that we genuinely can change the world. And I love that about us. And I think that's actually true. Like, for the first time ever in history, an individual can have much more influence than governments, than the president of the United States. I mean, how crazy is it that I have literally like no budget. I do this out of my house. I post a video every once in a while, and I had a video reach 10 million views last week. Or somebody like Mr. Beast can make silly YouTube videos in North Carolina and reach billions of people around the world with a B. Has far more influence than the president of the United States. I genuinely think we do live in a time where we can change the world. We can change culture. We can fight for what we believe in and something to be proud of again. But you have to stop shutting out people who are ringing the alarm bells and telling you the house is on fire. Something is wrong. Something is really wrong. That doesn't make you a bad person to say that you're not happy or you're not satisfied or you're not proud of who we are today. It doesn't make you anti-American or not a patriot or somebody to be shunned and scorned at, to acknowledge right now, here, today, not okay. This is not how I want to move forward with my life and in the society that I live in. We need something better, and I'm going to choose to fight for it. But don't you dare for a second put down people who are ringing the alarm bells, because at least they have the courage to do that when everybody else is silently removing things off of their website or refusing to stand up for people who cannot stand up for themselves, who lack the opportunity to. I told you yesterday that this fight can't just happen in isolation with like a movie, right? Zooming back into to child sex trafficking and what human trafficking as an industry is doing to our society. This fight can't happen in isolation with a movie or with a social media post or your favorite podcast host talking about it on their podcast or a segment on TV or one tweet, okay? It has to involve all of us. And you all agreed with me overwhelmingly yesterday about that. And I'm so grateful for your continued commitment to be fighting for this as well, because it cannot rely on the few blue check marks in the world. It has to be every single one of us being willing to post about our experience, being willing to encourage other people to go, being willing to buy their movie tickets so that people who can't afford can go, to show this at your church, to go out of your way to get your family to go with you, go again and again and again, and bring new people every single time to go see Sound of Freedom. It was so eye-opening. It was so incredible. But it can't stop at this movie, and it can't stop with one person, or it can't stop with your favorite content creator or your favorite talking head in the political movement. Every single one of us has to continue advocating for the truth, has to continue speaking up and ringing the alarm bells. And somebody in our YouTube chat is saying people have been ringing the bells since the 70s. Good. Not enough, people. Never enough. Because until our government is reminded they work for us and their job is to protect the sanctity of people's freedom and life, we haven't done enough. Until the entertainment industry recognizes a movie that deserves the freaking Academy Award for exposing all of this stuff and incredible acting, instead of promoting movies like Cuties and Promiscuity and Evil, we haven't done enough. Until our social media feeds are filled with people saying, this movie totally opened my eyes, or, hey, oh my gosh, I had no idea that our government is doing that. I'm not okay with it. I'm writing a letter to everybody that I know. Please join me in doing that. Or, hey, I discovered this thing because I can go discover something as an independent journalist far more successfully than the news could. Here's everything you need to know about it. Until all of that is happening on our social media feeds, we haven't done enough. Until the education system is more interested on protecting the innocence of kids than trying to talk to them about sex as a child, as a toddler, or trying to change their gender behind their parents' back, we haven't done enough. We haven't. And I'm a big believer in the reality that I and you and all of us, we can't save the country. We can't save the world. A lot of people in the big umbrella conservative movement, conservative Inc., will try to tell you that doing all of this is going to save America. It's going to save the world. And you hear that tagline all the time. The sad truth is, and the frustrating truth is, we can't save the country. We can't save the world. At some point, like the Roman Empire, America probably will fall. I don't know everything. I'm not omniscient. But like at some point, there's no mention of America in the end times in the Bible, if you're a Christian and you believe in the book of Revelation. None. Historians and theologists have tied other countries back to, theoretically, what could be mentioned in Revelation, but not the United States of America. So at some point, we probably will be fighting for a whole lot more than our country, okay? And especially for those of you watching around the world, you're probably like, sure, it's great to fight for America, but how does this apply to me? We are not fighting all of these battles to try to save the country or save the world or get a politician elected back into office or like the color tie that the president is wearing on the debate stage or any of the above. What we are fighting for is to try to make this world a little bit more like the next one. And yesterday we talked about how this is not just a literal fight, okay? This is not simply you trying to stand up against human traffickers or trying to save victims of human trafficking. This isn't just trying to get our government agencies to listen to us and be reminded that they work for us. This isn't just trying to save children with laws or try to prosecute criminals. All of those things are important and need to happen. But there's also a different dimension and a different layer to this fight, and just how downtrodden we feel and how impossible it feels to win sometimes that we can't see. That is invisible to us because we're people and we can't see certain things, and that is the spiritual warfare aspect of all of this. When we are fighting against human trafficking, when we are fighting to protect the innocence of children, when we're fighting for preborn babies to have a same chance at life as anybody else, when we are fighting for letting your children remain in their gendered bodies that God assigned to them instead of being chemically and physically castrated, all of these things, we are also fighting for a win of good over evil. We are fighting to defeat the person, the being, I suppose, that has jurisdiction over this realm, and that is Satan. We're fighting with angels and demons just as much as we are fighting between good people and bad people, between heroes and criminals, between the good guys and the bad guys, the hero and the villain, if you will. We're fighting on a different plane at the exact same time that we are fighting all of the battles that you'll hear about with political talking heads and your favorite podcast host and your favorite content creator. This is such a bigger concept than I think most people realize. And if America someday does fall, I would hate that. I love my country. But I've come to realize and I've come to recognize that what we're fighting for has to be so much bigger than country. It has to be so much bigger than politics. It has to be so much bigger than who the president is or what letter is your political affiliation next to your name on your voter registration or what bill is in Congress. We are called to make this world a little bit more like the next one, even if that's only for one person at a time, because the truth is we can't save America. We can't save the world. We can't put an end to evil. God can. And it's really easy to get sucked into this plane of existence, this realm, this fight. When we do that, it feels impossible to win because it is. And so I want to encourage you to just keep your eyes fixed above, up, fixed on heaven. remind yourself that you are a citizen of heaven, not a citizen of this world, and it's time to fight like it, because this is a very small blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things, but impacts literally billions of people. You and your actions or your inaction, and what you're willing to fight for on this side of heaven, on this side of existence. Be willing to sacrifice your own personal fame, your grades, your job, your friends, your relationships, maybe even your safety, for a greater purpose of bringing truth to a world that is rejecting that concept and bringing goodness and morality back to an evil world. It's not supposed to be easy. In fact, we're pretty much reminded at every single opportunity that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really, really, really freaking hard. Really hard. But I promise you that it's going to be worth it. And I will be fighting right here alongside with you guys every single day. Heavy subject. I'm glad I didn't cry today. I almost did. It was pretty close. But I want to round us out with a couple of interesting / fun things to talk about before we move into our post-game Q&A over on Locals. Thank you guys so much for participating in our live chats, for donating in our super chat. You guys are absolutely phenomenal people. If you have not gone to go see Sound of Freedom yet, you absolutely need to. I showed you yesterday on the stream, which you can go back and find, where you can find free tickets if going to the movies is not a financial reality for you, or how you can pay it forward to other people who might need some financial assistance to go see the movie. But it is a totally different experience seeing it in the theater versus in your house. There's no distractions. You're really immersed in it. And I think it's really awesome. So please go see it if you haven't already. Be educating yourself religiously about this subject, because we need people who are aware, who are educated, and willing to stand up and fight based on all of the things that they know. And we will have a lot to fight for along the way in the next few months. I have no doubt about it. But courage is contagious, and the more we continue to stand up and fight, the more other people will feel compelled to do the exact same thing as well. Fun little video for you. You guys know that the Taylor Swift Eras Tour is going on right now. I don't care if you're a Swiftie or if you're not, but I saw this video on TikTok and was absolutely fascinated by this. I don't know how much you guys realize this is impacting the American economy right now, but in a time where the economy is literally in the toilet, this is a fascinating expose on what is really going on behind the scenes. Watch this.
Taylor Swift's tour is about to make $1 billion, the most ever by any artist. Taylor herself is going to bring home over $500 million. The numbers are honestly hard to fathom. Listen to how crazy this is. By the end of the tour, she'll have done 106 shows all around the world. Each show brings in $10 million in ticket sales and $2 to $4 million in merch. After she pays her cut to the stadium, her team, crew, and promoter, she's left with around $5.7 million in profit.
So every single night on the Eras Tour right now, which is the Taylor Swift concert tour that's happening right now, she is bringing home almost $6 million a night, which is blowing my mind. Like, how that's even possible is insane to me.
Per night. For reference, that's more per night than what 48% of NBA players make per year. But those aren't even the craziest stats. It's estimated that Taylor's total economic impact could be as high as $4.6 billion. That's
almost $5 billion of economic impact from the Taylor Swift Eras Tour alone, in a time where the economy is in the toilet. Like, in this economy? Yes, in this economy.
for all the businesses that benefit from her being in town, like hotels and restaurants, because the average fan pays $1,300 for the full concert experience. So the real question is this: has Taylor Swift created the greatest music business of all time?
So I saw that and was just totally floored. Have you guys been to the Eras Tour? I know a lot of you have commented that you were going on my Instagram or on my threads or whatever. If you've been, let me know in the chat if it's really that good. I've been to a Taylor Swift concert. I went to the original Speak Now tour in high school and it was really good, but I've never seen hype for a music experience like I see on social media about the Eras Tour. Like, is it really that good? Is it worth $6 million in profit for the artist every single night? What I think is really interesting about this tour, and how I think it's going to completely impact the entirety of the music industry, is that she's selling an experience a lot more than she's selling the music, right? She's selling nostalgia. She's selling childhood memories. She's selling friendship. She's selling community. Like, it's so much more than just going to a concert and listening to music. But what I'm seeing out of the Eras Tour is an entire span of multiple generations going and participating in this experience that's all immersive, because it's from every single album that she's ever done. There's like surprise songs that are different set lists every single time that she goes to a different show. There's unique experiences with unique celebrity guests at every single show. Like, it's absolutely wild. And I'm watching videos of people who are selling their cars to afford going to this concert, because all of the resale tickets are literally like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, which is insane. So insane, crazy, absolutely wild. I don't know if any of you guys have been, but there's something to think about in terms of economic impact in the future of the music industry. I loved the Taylor Swift concert that I went to. I'm a big fan of old Taylor. The best album so far is 1989, and nothing else has ever even come close. After that, everything's just kind of been like, there's been a few good songs since then, but I wouldn't say any of the albums are absolutely fantastic since 1989. So that is definitely by far my favorite, and I love all of the music before that as well. After that, I kind of fell a little bit off the Swiftie train. My favorite concert I've ever been to, though, was Morgan Wallen. We went last May, and that was absolutely fantastic. But I've just been thinking a lot about live music lately. It's been a while since I've been to a concert. I love concerts. I love live music. I put on my Instagram story the other day how I'm just like yearning for a concert, especially Noah Kahan, but I cannot figure out how to get to a Noah Kahan concert. Maybe I'll try to go to the Tampa one, but it's like a 4-hour drive away. We'll see, but I love Noah. I love his current album. I think it's great, and I absolutely love live music, so we'll see, and just thought I should share that with you guys, because I think the music industry really is about to forever change from the Eras Tour. I wish I had the chance to go, even though I wouldn't really know most of the new songs. I know all of the old songs, but it just seems like such an interesting experience and is totally reshaping concerts as we know it in real time. And I had a fun question for all of you. As you know, Brock and I are getting married, which is so very fun. We are working on all kinds of fun wedding planning stuff and all of the above. It's great. But wanted to know if you guys had an opinion about where we should do our engagement pictures. We're getting married in Colorado. I think it would be fun to do our engagement pictures in the fall in Colorado with all of the trees. Brock kind of thinks it would be fun to do totally different vibe engagement pictures here in Florida that's really different from our wedding. So if you have an input on where we should do our engagement pictures, drop them in the chat. And I'm dying to know what you guys think. And yes, I do need a karaoke night. Alex, that would be very, very fun. I love karaoke. Magic Def says mix and match. Do both. I'd be okay with that. We probably have to go back to Colorado anyway in the fall to do some wedding planning stuff, so that would be fun. You never know. FJR Fie Soleil says the concert in Chicago for Taylor Swift, some fans paid more than $30,000 a ticket for Taylor Swift. My soul. That's painful. Maze Page says we should do our pictures at a waterfall. That's cool. Alex says anywhere with both of y'all holding AR-15s based. We love to see it. All right, you guys, we're going to jump over to Locals for our post-game Q&A. I'm dropping the link right now in our chat for all of you to join us. You are all invited, and we can talk about literally anything that you want. It does not have to be related to any of the things that we talked about today. Keep fighting. I know it feels exhausting. I know it feels like every single day there's a whole new layer of crap that you just don't know how to emotionally or mentally process. I totally can relate to that. But our complicity starts with our silence, and so we have to keep speaking up, and we have to keep doing everything we can to exposing all of this stuff with every opportunity that we possibly can take. Be good people. Tell the truth. I love you all so very much. Join us over on Locals, and Locals don't go anywhere. But if you're watching on Rumble, on YouTube, on Getter, or on Facebook, we will see you back for the stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys so much. Have a great night.